All right, now let's do some examples from literal equations. It is a coloring worksheet, however, I'm kind of adjusting this, so if you want to like color it for extra credit, you can. But what I'm mostly concerned about, and I have the other paper that goes with it back here, so if you want it, eventually just let me know. But I'm kind of adjusting this a bit. So you see how for like example A, there's 3 options here. So it's kind of multiple choice, right? And then it tells you what color to color, and then the number you find from plugging in these numbers and solving. All right, I'm less worried about you plugging in numbers and solving. I think you guys have that down. It's the rearranging that I'm concerned about. So when I check this one tomorrow, I'm just gonna look for, did you show work for the rearranging? And did you pick the right one? That's pretty much it. The substituting, I don't really care for. All right, but let's just do some examples. So again, literal equations are ones that have at least 2 variables in them. So, or like for these ones, for the most part, are all variables. When it's like that, you can't really solve and say like B is 7 or something like that, because they're all letters. You're really just still doing the same steps, but you're just rearranging it. So when I say like in example A that we're solving for B, what I'm going to do, sorry, hold on, I need to look. What I'm going to do is look at what's being done to the B. I'm going to highlight it here so you can clearly see it. Look at what's being done to the B. It's being divided by C squared. So how can I cancel out that denominator of that fraction? Good, multiply C squared. That'll cancel it out on the right. And then just like when we do it with numbers, whatever you do on one side, you have to do to the other side. The only difference is now, like you see on the left side, are there any like terms? No, so we just like rewrite it. Normally when we write stuff like this, we put it in alphabetical order. Haven't learned yet, really. Just know that C squared times A is the same thing as writing AC squared, right? On the right side, what happens to these C squareds? They cancel out, and all that remains is B. So now that I have the B by itself, I can say that I solved for B. That's what it means. And it says solve for this. It just means that it wants this letter by itself. And if you look at your answer options, B is by itself in all of them, right? So which of these answer options matches our answer over here? The third one. Questions about that? All right, and then if you're interested in doing the coloring part, again, I'm not, like, for me, this is good enough to get credit for this one tomorrow. But if you're wanting to do the coloring part, you just plug in the numbers that it tells you. So if my equation is AC squared equals B, and A is 1/8, and C is 4, so we're plugging it into this equation. You can simplify it and solve for B. All right, that's just not really my main focus here, because on your test, it just wants you to rearrange it. But if I was simplifying it, you know, you do your exponents first. So I have 1/8 times 4 squared. What's 4 squared? 16. And then what's 1/8 times 16? So always put the fraction in parentheses. Or if you're multiplying it straight across, it can be that way. 2. All right, and then you would know that for the coloring sheet, which I have, like if you want one, that you can ask for it. You know that on the coloring sheet that all the 2s are painted dark gray. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? All right, so let's do a few more examples so that we can kind of get the hang of it. So let's look at B together. What does it say that we're solving for in B? We're solving for B. So we want to get the B completely by itself. All right, now what's being done to the B? Being subtracted from M. So we need to cancel out that M and that minus. Always start with what's farther away. How can I cancel out the M?
Subtract.
Good. And then again, whatever you do on one side, you have to do to the other side. On the left, M minus M is 0. That canceled. What remains? On the left, what remains is, on the right, it's K minus M. Good. Now, is the B completely by itself?
No.
No. If you thought so, then that's wrong. Look at your answer option. There's no negative B there. So what do I have to do to get that B to not be negative anymore?
Divide.
By a negative 1. Because what's the coefficient if it's not written?
1.
1. So it's a negative 1 times B. Opposite of multiplying by negative 1 is dividing by negative 1. Sometimes you see it like this, where the whole other side is divided by something. But since it's a number, you might also see it like this, where it's each individual term divided by negative 1. And it looks like that's what they're going for, because look at your answer option. So on the left, the negatives cancel. I have B by itself now. On the right, what's K divided by negative 1? Good. What's negative M divided by negative 1? Good. Now this is my answer, but do any of these ones match like exactly, like the way that I wrote it? It's a little bit different, right? But just make sure these have the correct signs. Like look at the brown option. Is K negative in that one?
No.
So then it cannot be this option. What about in the light blue option? Is K negative? Is M positive? So it's probably this one, but let's double check the yellow. Is K negative? So then it can't be the yellow one either. Does that make sense? All right, just looking at the sheet, front and back, are there any that you want to do together that you think look a little challenging right off the bat? Yes? Yeah.
H.
H? All right, so let's look at H. All right, so in H, we're solving for W. We want to get this W by itself. I'll do my best not to highlight anything other than the W. So look at what's being done to it. And then always get rid of what's closest or farther away from it. Farther away. So we're going to get rid of that Y first. How do I make the Y cancel? Good. Do that on each side. Subtracting Y, make it cancel on the left. On the left, what remains? And it's equal to what? Good. Because again, those aren't like terms, X and Y, right? Now, W isn't by itself yet. What's farther from it? The B or the squared? B is being multiplied by B. What's opposite of multiplying by B? Good. So do that on each side. Usually when it's a variable, instead of writing it separate, They'll put it all over that variable. On the left, the v's cancel. I have w squared equals x minus y over v. So again, just rewriting it. Is the w completely by itself?
No.
Do you guys know what the opposite of squaring something is?
Square root.
Good. So that looks like this. It kind of looks like a division sign, but it has that little dash on it. And whatever you do on one side, you have to do to the other. On the left, this cancels. W's by itself now. Which answer option matches this? Yes. Questions about that? All right, so really what we're getting to, like just working it out and picking the correct color is all I want you to do. If you want to do the extra credit work for it, yeah. So I'll let you practice for the rest of the time, and of course I'm here if you need help. And honestly, pick whichever one you think is harder to work on right now. Because I'm here to help you right now, so I can help you on whichever one you think is more difficult. And then save whichever other one for later if you don't get to finish both today. Any questions? All right.